Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I wanted to go over signs that you are special to an avoidant, more than special, that they love you, that they value you, and they care about you. And you're going to start seeing this shift as the rapport between you two gets stronger, but also that they start being more comfortable recognizing that they feel. A lot of this might be subconscious, which means they might not be fully aware that they love you, but at least for you to know that they love you so that the time comes when they feel more aware of their feelings and they confess to you, it will be something that you were not necessarily waiting for and thinking it may never happen, but more so that you were prepared for it, knowing that the likelihood it will show up soon if they do confess to you. But this can also happen if they already have told you that they loved you. But these are some of the signs. And the very first one, I think, is probably it can even occur right before they fall in love or when they're falling in love, is that they start extending the time that you stay or hang out a little bit more. It doesn't mean all the time, but you can start seeing it. Let's say, for example, you guys are in the middle of a very important, or not even important, but very intellectually stimulating conversation. And your partner, maybe you guys tend to only hang out for like 2 or 3 hours, maybe a couple times a week or once a week or whatever your situation is, depending on where you're at the relationship. And instead, they start becoming a little bit more flexible with that because one, they like spending time with you, but two, you're very engaging to them. And it would actually feel like they would rather have this conversation with you, even though they see you often and even though you guys are together. It's not like they're going to lose you necessarily. It's not like this is a rare thing, but it's just that it's so much more valuable than their alone time that maybe it's worth it. And so you can even see this when you guys are like taking a walk, for example. Let's say you guys take walks very often and you guys have conversations while you're taking a walk. You can start seeing them extending that walk. Or, maybe you guys do like 5 or 6 laps and they say, okay, one more lap. Or another lap, let's go another lap, just because they're really enjoying your company. You can start seeing that they might actually not just extend the time that you're hanging out, but they may say, hey, come a little bit earlier. You might start seeing that as well. Let's say you guys were planning to hang out at 6 p.m. And they might say, hey, I finished up work a little bit quick. If you're fine, I can do 5 p.m. And so you start seeing them be a little bit more flexible with the hangout time because they like to hang out with you. Okay. The next one is that they actually directly tell you that it hurts them when they see you sad, right? Let's say you guys got into some sort of argument, maybe in a fight, not physical fight, of course, but an emotional one where maybe something they did really upset you and it bothered you and you felt like really bad about it. Maybe you said, I feel really disappointed about this, or I don't feel like you appreciate my efforts, whatever the discussion was. And then you're very clearly sad. It doesn't mean that you break up with them, but it means that you just explained yourself, and they can directly say, it really hurts me when you say that to me, or it really hurts me when I see you sad. And sometimes they might need prompting where they might not be able to say it right away because they just aren't aware of it at this moment. So you can say, does it at least bother you that I feel bad? Does it hurt you that I feel sad? Does it, make you feel bad that I'm feeling this way? And you might even, depending on how close you guys are, you might push it in this direction, depending, right? More easier if you guys are long term. You might say something like, does me being sad give you any incentive to change this, right? If you're more frustrated, that can come out. And some avoidants, if they have been with you for a long time, that actually does give them incentive, especially if you clearly say it like that. But overall, even whatever stage you guys are in the relationship, they directly tell you that it hurts them that they see you sad, right? Whether it's prompted or not, okay? The next one is something that a lot of them don't recognize even when they admit that they love you. They probably don't realize that this is what happened because they just don't see themselves the way you see them, which is that their view on relationships in general, their view on romantic relationships, have shifted to a more positive outlook. Maybe before they would say something like, all men are heartless, or all men do is take up my time, or all men do is try and change me, or all women do is waste my money, whatever negative narratives, right? Marriage is for people who don't have anything better to do, or marriage just means that it's more things that I have to worry about. They're negative outlooks, but you're starting to see a more positive outlook. Maybe you guys are watching something on the news or on TV, and they might say something like, well, it's a husband's job to take care of his wife. That's important, right? And so suddenly you're seeing that it's a positive perspective, right? Might say something like, well, of course she wants to be there for her husband when he's at the hospital. She loves him, right? You start seeing more positive perspectives, not even of yourself, relationships in general. You might even start seeing where you guys are hanging out with more people who are in a relationship. This one might not always be the case because some avoidant individuals are not necessarily social, especially dismissive avoidance. But in general, it really depends on their personality. But you might see where they're actually more outwardly comfortable hanging out with people who are married, whereas you guys are in a couple together. So the function is like multiple couples. Or it might be, let's say a dismissive avoidant male, he used to hang out with guys who are single or divorced. Now he's hanging out or more comfortable hanging out with men who are married or in long-term committed relationships. And so his perspective of relationships are just becoming more concrete of his own identity, right? The next one is typically it's going to happen after a big fight or disagreement. So let's say you guys had a disagreement or whatever, they actually show remorse and they attempt to repair with you, right? They are not leaving it necessarily that way. Even if they might not directly say, hey, I'm just checking, are you okay? They're actually showing signs that whatever happened during that argument, it affected them, to which it gave them incentive to not do that again. Maybe they crashed out and said something like, maybe this relationship isn't working. They were mad. They didn't mean it. They apologized, X, Y, and Z. But after the fight, maybe you're not feeling, 100% safe and you're on the guard. That makes sense, right? If you're not the avoidant. The avoidant probably feels and does feel, that's the point of this video, you're more than special to them. So you're one of the most valuable things in their life. They really didn't mean it like that. And they don't want you to feel like they don't like you. And they know that they probably don't deserve a second chance, but they're very grateful that you gave them a second chance. So they're trying not to mess that up. And so they're not trying to fully say, hey, I'm a terrible person, you should leave me. They don't want to say that because they don't want you to leave. And so what they tend to do is they tend to show remorse by being more affectionate or doing some of the things you asked for. Maybe you were always really frustrated that they don't answer text messages quick enough. So they start answering those text messages more. And more importantly, you start seeing that these changes are permanent. They're not temporary. Although some of them might be more obvious when they first start, but they're integrating it in their perspective of your relationship. So in general, they're starting to text more quickly than they used to prior to this disagreement, and that stays. It might not be perfect, but you're seeing that they have that incentive because they don't want that big fight with you. Avoidants don't like fights. And so two versions of how avoidants act during fights, and more common if they don't love you, even though it can happen when they love you, they shut down and pull away, right? But if they love you, they try, especially if they're more aware of their feelings or they're getting more comfortable with you, they try their best to do whatever it takes to not have that fight again, which means that they just try and fix what you're asking for. Not always, but it does happen. The next one is they follow up after a mistake they made to apologize and clarify. So let's keep talking about a disagreement because that's another example, right? Let's say you guys had a disagreement and they said, just as our example previously, maybe this isn't working or maybe we're not meant for each other, whatever. They acted irrational. They didn't mean it, but they said that and they regret it. And so then maybe like 30 minutes later, 40 minutes later, let's say, it was a phone call. So you hang up, they hang up, whatever. And then after 30 or 40 minutes, they text you and say, hey, I should not have said that. I don't mean it like that. I should work on that. I shouldn't lose my temper. And they clarify, no, I definitely don't want us to break up. I don't think I ever do. And so they add that clarification because they don't want you to feel uncomfortable. The next one is they're more flexible with affection just in general. If they're hugging you, maybe it's more longer than it used to be. Maybe when you reach out to them, they're more comfortable with your hand on their leg. They're more comfortable with cuddling after intimacy. They show that they're more flexible with this. And the last one is that they reassure you more easily than before. Maybe before they would get irritated that you need reassurance. Now they're okay with that. They're okay with being that person that gives you that comfort. So let's go ahead and summarize it and then we can wrap this up, okay? So the very first one is they extend time for you to stay or hang out. The second one is they tell you directly it hurts them when they see you sad, okay? The third one is they view relationships in general in a more positive outlook. The fourth one is typically after a fight. They show remorse and attempt to repair with you. The fifth one is also typically after a fight. They follow up after a mistake they made, and they apologize as well as clarify so you don't get the wrong idea. The sixth one is that they're more flexible and more open to affection. And the seventh one is that they reassure you more easily than before. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.